I am playing a 2v2 game here with the Iron Price. I am playing as the Seleucids here, and Iron Price is playing as the Roman Empire. So, I forget the names of the other players. I guess we'll see those at the end. So my army consists of a center line. This is a Seleucid build that I enjoy playing with. It is a central line here of 3 regular pike units, and on either flank they are supported by a very flexible sword and skirmisher unit. That would be, of course, the Royal Peltists. So I have those on either side. In my center, so it's important when you bring these pike builds that you have good missile support, so the Peltists provide a little bit of that. But for my central skirmishing force, I have 3 Syrian heavy archers. They, in their line up front here, are flanked on either side by Thureos spears, which are an excellent support unit. In addition, I also have 2 more Persian light archers protected in front by Eastern spearmen, which just to give them some support from cav attacks or whatever. I'll sometimes start my games with them on the flank in order to protect from skirmisher cavalry, which I guess I really shouldn't have expected in this game. Is that, yeah, Massilia and Rome don't usually bring those two, but nevertheless I have them there on my flank. You can see here I'm moving them to my center for the main skirmishing operation. I also have 2 thorax swordsmen. Now, the Seleucids do not have kind of a killer infantry package, so obviously Royal Peltists are an excellent unit all around, but they don't have they're very expensive units. You gotta have something that seals the deal here, and that's really what these elephants are for. Because they're just killing machines. The reason why I bring so many skirmishers is with this build to clear the way for the elephants. I have gone with my cavalry. I have 3 Azat Knights on my left flank, and here I have a Median Knight on my right flank, which I use to support my ally. Now, our 2 opponents here, this is a game I hosted, thought it would be... I mentioned that there was no artillery allowed, nevertheless they brought some, so I have an opportunity here to sneak in with the median cavalry and take them out. It's likely they're going to take some casualties coming in here. I hope not, but that may happen, if I recall correctly. But just having that 1 cav here gives me a little bit of flexibility, especially to exploit this gap that's common between enemy lines and 2v2s. This is an advantage of the Eastern spearmen. If I have them up front with my skirmisher build, with my archer build here, so I have 5 units packed in here. Maybe it'd be better to have them spread out. But I can use these Eastern spearmen to put pressure on the enemy archers here. And, if I can force them to retreat... I'm backing off here because they're taking very heavy casualties, but, which I don't want, even for a unit that cheap. I don't play these games. I never try to just waste a unit. That's, you got to maximize your efficiency here. But if I can get just one of these units to retreat, that's a good thing. That's less fire directed on my skirmishers. So here they're spending all their archer fire on my Eastern spearmen, and they're not putting it on any of the skirmisher units. So this gives them time to get in line. it's likely that this unit is going to break here in just a moment. I think they have, even for such a cheap unit, maybe they have a half-decent block chance. So here we go, Rome getting into line here, and Rome is a very, just a tough faction. Here the Eastern Spearmen are on the verge of breaking. Rome is a very tough faction. Let's go ahead and go into play. We don't need all the slow-mo, in the sense that, you know, each of these infantry units are just very durable, and I think they're the best faction for newer players to the game, because each unit is so durable. You know, if you lose your Roman general here, which frankly happens quite often with the Legatus unit, the infantry have such high morale that they can still perform pretty well against these Massilian hoplites. They're gonna do some nasty business here. These hoplites will probably hold out for a minute, but they just don't have the killing power of sword units, let alone Roman infantry, which has some of the best mid-tier swords in the game. So Rome is definitely going to win this fight. So playing as the Seleucids, I'm vulnerable to that powerful Roman infantry. This guy still thinks he can win the skirmisher battle, which he can't. What he really should do at this point is come in here with his strong infantry, and if he positions them near my pikes, they can just throw their precursor javelins and just really do heavy damage to my pikes. That's when I lose playing with this build, that is a lot of times what happens if I'm fighting against a barbarian or a Roman faction. Of course, what I would do in that case is bring up these thorax swords, or bring back that Eastern Spear unit, put them there. They have a better block chance than the pikes, which have a terrible block chance. And that would protect them a little bit. So here I'm bringing up my my Thurio spears, which to put pressure on these archers, because I'm going to just keep shooting at him with my ranged units until he moves forward. I have a very pro-defensive army. Pikes it's one of the weaknesses of the game, in fact, is that pikes cannot be utilized aggressively in Rome 2. I still have my median cav, still a very effective unit here, ready to sweep in. But here we go. So Rome is just going to eat these people alive here. They have no chance. I mean, for a Celtic slinger unit, they're getting work done. But they're picking away at his general there. Iron really needs to move that unit. So let me see. Okay, what was my intention here? Yeah, so I think, you know, I've totally... I mean, he's still got a decent amount of skirmishers left, but I bring up these units. Yeah, so I think my pikemen were getting some fire. I bring up those thorax swords to protect them. I don't think I've lost any pikes. Pikes with my center of my line. I do my best to protect those units. What cavalry? Auxiliary cav. Not a bad unit. But Azot Knights, correct me if I'm wrong, but these may be the best cavalry in the game. There's no way he's going to be able to punch through these here. The strength of the Roman forces, I mean, so the Praetorian cav is very good. Romans have pretty decent cav, but the strength is within their infantry, and I don't think here we see... I think he should be playing much more aggressively, since he's kind of clearly lost the skirmisher fight. I don't know what was happening here. I don't know why this unit got sent up here. That's a mistake. It was chasing these guys, those units. So here, median cav, I see a chance to swoop in. So it looks like the thorax swords did break the Roman line here. Sword units are valuable, or vulnerable to a cav charge, but I didn't charge well, so this engagement is not going well for me. Yeah, Hippeus Lancers, excellent shock cavalry unit, and this guy's going down here. Uh, these skirmishers are kind of vulnerable to this kind of stuff, but they're getting torn apart to... Alright, so here we missed a fun part of this engagement. So his auxiliary cav came in, supported by, and this is a good strategy if you're playing Romans, bring in a couple Triarii units, which are one of the strongest spear units in the game. Probably the strongest non-hoplite spear. Well, I don't know, some of the barbarian factions have some interesting elite spears. But, you know, I wouldn't want to leave, so even though these Azot Knights will dominate the engagement with the auxiliary cav, I don't want to leave them in here with Triarii poking them. I bring in the elephants. They're just going to make this whole thing go a lot more quickly. I think he's picking at... So obviously elephants are a very, very soft target for ranged units. They can go crazy or whatever. But there's just not enough of these Syrian archers left to spook them the way they need to. This engagement is going well, so this player makes the fatal mistake of charging pikes. Maybe he could have gotten away with it if they were in ranks of 2, but I did not spread them out completely, so there are 3, maybe even, look, they're like 4 deep here. They're gonna just like running into a meat grinder. He should have put them in front. Should have had them throw the precursor javelins in. Yeah, I should not leave it that long on slow motion here. So, you know, they're charging these pikes. I can use my thorax swords to flank them now, and here we go. So, probably the thing that makes Rome 2 most unique compared to other Total Wars is really the precursor javelins. They give infantry a unique edge. You know, against cavalry especially, can be devastated by a volley of precursor javelins. Taking a look up here, Rome is wrapping this one up. Massilia just can't compete. Really, any of the Greek factions that are very reliant on hoplites are weak in this game. You can make them work, but I have not seen a lot of success with them. I think games between Greek factions are very interesting, but if you're just casually playing a multiplayer game, you know, it might be a fun way for a more experienced player to challenge themselves. You'll see that a little bit. So these elephants in a good game, I can get 500 kills with them, and that's what they're there to do. I bring them with the trample ability. Really makes them absolutely devastating in any kind of charge. So I bring I think it's the strategy general option, which allows for the second wind, brings elephants' energy back. So when they lose all their energy doing the trample charge, you can get it back using the second wind, and just you can keep using that ability, and it makes them just really, really dangerous. You don't want to screw around with those guys. Oh yeah, back with the precursor javelins. Those can be very devastating to elephants. You know, people have often remarked that you take a barbarian faction with Levy Freeman, and a volley of precursors from a cheap unit like Levy Freeman can just devastate these guys. You know, not take them down, but you know, it can hurt them substantially. And yes, a couple volleys from a cheap unit like Levy Freeman can destroy elephants. You have to be very careful with using them because they're such a substantial monetary investment when building your army. This is done. We've won this game. Like I said, if you're a newer player, you could just copy this build. Let's take a look here. So if you're a newer player, this is a build that I think is fantastic. You know, you have a very strong skirmishing component. You're not bringing an excess amount of skirmishers. I think you'll see a lot of gimmicky Roman armies where people will bring a ton of skirmishers, skirmisher cav. The strength of the Roman faction is reliant on their heavy sword infantry, or their medium tier sword infantry. which they have very cheap. I mean, there's few units that can go toe to toe with this Evocati cohort. There's even fewer units that can. You just can't deal. Like, look at how much of the sword infantry he's bringing. If you're playing in a game where there's rules on the max number of units, okay, bring half Evocati here and go half armored legionnaires. You know, you just can't lose with this. I mean, you can obviously, but this is a very aggressive force to deal with. Another thing you'll see a lot of newer players do. Again, this is a good build, but you'll see people try to bring, like, you know, they'll spend all this money and bring 3 or 4 Praetorian Guard, which is just stupid. You want to try to fill out your roster the best way possible. You know, a couple of these Hastati, you know, really good, good blocking force, block enemy charges. So, you know, he did get a good amount of kills with this ballista, but it was against the game rules. Thorax swordsman, very pricey. I think they cost about the same as an Evocati cohort, maybe even a little more, but they will lose against these units. So again, the advantage of the Romans is their lower cost. None of these units can go toe-to-toe with the Evocati cohort. That's why they got destroyed, and that's generally true with the Greek city-state factions. With the Hellenistic successor factions, they suffer from that same weakness. Generally, they don't have strong infantry. I mean, obviously, Royal Peltists are very strong, but they're very expensive units. So you gotta. The Seleucids, I think they're a power faction because of they have access to fantastic cavalry, like the Azot Knights. They have Indian armored elephants. They have, I mean, like median cavalry are a decent mid-tier cav unit that can get a lot of work done. That was a very important unit in this game. Hippeus Lancers can compete, but you can make Massilia work. I think it's a very interesting faction, very fun faction in the game. Historically interesting as a city-state. So again, this is kind of what I'm talking about. This is not a bad build by any means, but I would hesitate before even bringing one Praetorian Guard unit. So this is a large, like 16k, 16,000 denarii or whatever money battle. So I would probably ever just bring one, maybe 2 Praetorian Guards to a good Rome build, because their strength is in not the elite sword units, which, I mean, so if you're bringing Praetorian Guard and you're getting less than 100 kills, something went wrong with the game here for you. Well, that's an extraordinary number of kills there, so for a Syrian heavy archer, that's a pretty decent performance. Yeah, this was the guy I was against, so cavalry, look at petty kills, you can't touch Azot Knights. But that's a good way Rome can compensate for problems with their cavalry, is just by bringing Triarii to back them up. Of course, Triarii don't have the precursor javelins that, you know, really would be critical for a better support unit. Yeah, so that's the battle, and hope you enjoyed it. Some interesting things went on there.